I found out my daughter wasn't mine on September 19th at 11:32 p.m., exactly 7 days after she was born, when the LabCorp email came through, while I was wrapping her first Christmas ornament. The genetic match probability was 0%. The gift paper was covered in tiny storks. If you've got some time and maybe a strong drink nearby, settle in. Because this story, my story, is about the 7 months I spent playing the role of a lifetime, knowing the truth, waiting for the perfect moment to make sure everyone else knew it too. So why did I wait 7 months after getting those DNA results to say anything? That's the question everyone asks. Here's the short answer. Because I wanted to make sure they'd remember. Every single person who needed to know the truth. I wanted it documented, witnessed, undeniable, and I wanted it to hurt the way it hurt me. But to understand why I did what I did, you need to know how I got there. You need to know about the life I thought I had, the wife I trusted, the best friend I'd known since college, and the baby girl I loved for 7 days before I found out she wasn't mine. You need to know about the 9 months I spent preparing to be a father while my wife was sleeping with the man who actually was. And you need to know about the moment I decided that the truth deserved an audience. This is that story, from the beginning to the bitter, complicated, messy end. Let me take you back to March 3rd. That was the day Lauren told me we were pregnant. We were in Dr. Martinez's office for what we thought was just a routine checkup. Lauren had been feeling off for a few weeks, nauseous, tired, emotional. We'd both joked about it being stress from her job, maybe the flu going around. The doctor suggested a pregnancy test, just to rule it out. 10 minutes later, Dr. Martinez came back in with this smile, and I swear my heart stopped before she even said the words. "Congratulations, you're about 8 weeks along." I looked at Lauren, she looked at me. And then I lost it. Happy tears, the kind I didn't even know I could cry. I'd wanted this for so long. We'd been married 4 years, and every time I brought up kids, Lauren said, "soon." And now it was happening. I pulled out my phone right there in the office and texted my best friend Trevor. "Dude, I'm gonna be a dad!" His response came back in seconds. "No way! Congrats, man. Let's celebrate this weekend. Drinks on me." Lauren was quieter. She smiled, hugged me, said all the right things. But there was something in her eyes. This flicker of something I couldn't name. I told myself it was shock or maybe fear. Becoming a parent is terrifying, right? Totally normal. Looking back now, I wonder what she was actually thinking in that moment. Was she scared because she didn't know whose baby it was? Or did she already know? I'll never get an answer to that. And honestly, I've stopped asking. But that day in March, I was flying. We drove home and I immediately started Googling everything. Pregnancy apps, baby name lists, nursery furniture. I downloaded 3 different apps to track the baby's development week by week. I'm a high school English teacher and I coach JV baseball, so I was already imagining teaching my kid to read, to throw a curveball, to love books the way I do. That night, Lauren went to bed early. Pregnancy exhaustion, the doctor said, and I stayed up until 2 a.m. reading parenting forums like some kind of maniac. I even ordered a book called The Expectant Father's Handbook and paid for overnight shipping. I couldn't sleep. I was too excited. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have paid more attention to Lauren's face in that doctor's office. I would have noticed the way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. I would have wondered why she seemed relieved when I said I'd handle telling our families, like she didn't want to make any more calls than necessary. But I didn't notice, because I trusted her. And trust, I've learned, makes you blind to the things you should be seeing. Now here's where the timeline gets important, because it took me months to put the pieces together, but when I finally did, the whole thing made me want to throw up. Back in January, 2 months before we found out about the pregnancy, I'd installed a Ring camera in our living room, not for any suspicious reason. We'd gotten a dog in late December, a golden retriever puppy we named Bailey, and I wanted to be able to check on him during the day while I was at school. You know, make sure he wasn't eating the couch or having accidents. Lauren knew about the camera. We both laughed about it when I set it up. I even joked, Now I can make sure Bailey isn't throwing wild parties while we're gone. The thing is, once you install a Ring camera and set it up, it just kind of becomes part of the furniture. You forget it's there. It records motion, stores the footage in the cloud, and unless you're actively looking for something specific, you never think about it. I forgot about it. Lauren forgot about it. But Trevor apparently forgot about it too. Let me tell you about Trevor Barnes. We met sophomore year of college at UNC Chapel Hill. He was my roommate, assigned randomly, and somehow we just clicked. He was the guy everyone wanted to be friends with. Confident, athletic, always had a story that made you laugh. I was the quieter one, the guy who actually went to the library, who took school seriously. We balanced each other out. By senior year, we were inseparable. Trevor, me, and Lauren, she was in our friend group, studying marketing, and by spring semester, her and I started dating. Trevor was always around. Game nights, road trips, graduation parties. When I proposed to Lauren 3 years later, I didn't even have to think about who my best man would be. Trevor stood next to me at my wedding. He gave a toast about friendship and loyalty, and how lucky I was to find someone like Lauren. Everyone laughed and cried and clapped. 4 years later, he was sleeping with my wife while I was at work. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In March, after we found out about the pregnancy, Trevor came over all the time. He'd text me, "How's Lauren feeling? Need me to bring anything?" He brought over groceries, helped me start putting together the nursery furniture, told me I was going to be an amazing dad. I thought I was lucky. A wife who was carrying our child, and a best friend who cared enough to help us through it. April and May were a blur of doctor appointments and pregnancy symptoms. Lauren was exhausted all the time, nauseous, moody. The doctor said it was all normal first trimester stuff. She started working from home more. Her job as a marketing coordinator let her do remote work 3 days a week. And Trevor kept stopping by to check on her on the days I was at school. I'd come home and Lauren would say, "Oh, Trevor brought lunch earlier. Wasn't that sweet?" And I'd think, yeah, that's what friends do. I should have seen it then. But the thing is, when you trust people, really trust them, you don't look for the signs. You make excuses. You rationalize. That's what I did. Until June 4th to be exact. That was the first time I felt it. That sick feeling in your stomach when something's wrong but you can't put your finger on it. I had a half day at school. Teacher planning day. Students released early. I got home around 1 p.m. and saw Trevor's car in our driveway. Not unusual. He'd been coming by a lot. But when I walked in, Trevor and Lauren were in the kitchen, and they both looked startled, like I'd interrupted something. "Hey man," Trevor said, too loud, too enthusiastic. "I brought over some of that ginger tea Lauren likes, for the morning sickness." Lauren smiled at me, but her face was flushed. "Yeah, Trevor's been so helpful." I looked between them. Something felt off. But what was I going to say? "Why are you being nice to my pregnant wife?" That would have sounded insane. So I said, "Thanks, man. Appreciate it." Trevor left 20 minutes later. Lauren went upstairs to take a nap, and I stood in the kitchen feeling like an idiot for even thinking something was wrong. But then the phone thing happened. We were having dinner one night in mid-June, and Lauren's phone buzzed on the table. She grabbed it so fast she almost knocked over her water glass. I laughed, made some joke about expecting a call from the president. She didn't laugh. She got defensive. "It's just work," she snapped, then immediately softened. "Sorry, I'm stressed about this campaign we're launching." I let it go. A few days later, I noticed she'd changed her phone password. We'd always known each other's passwords, never used them, but knew them, just in case. Now when I casually mentioned it, she said she'd had to reset it because she kept typing it wrong. Maybe that's true. Or maybe she needed to make sure I couldn't see her texts. I didn't want to be that guy. The paranoid husband. The one who checks his wife's phone like some insecure teenager. So I pushed the thoughts away, until late June, when everything changed. I was looking through our Ring camera footage, trying to find a video from the week before. A package had been stolen off our porch, and I needed the timestamp for the police report. I was scrolling through days of footage, mostly just Bailey walking around or me and Lauren leaving for work, when I saw it. Tuesday, June 18th, 11:07 a.m. Trevor walks into our house. I wasn't home. I was at school teaching 10th graders about To Kill a Mockingbird. The timestamp shows Trevor leaving at 1:43 p.m., 2 hours and 36 minutes. I stared at my phone screen. My hands were shaking. Maybe they were just hanging out, I told myself. Watching TV, talking. Friends do that, but the sick feeling in my stomach was getting worse. I went back further. June 11th. Trevor's car arrives at 10:52 a.m., leaves at 1:15 p.m. June 6th, 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. May 30th, 10:45 a.m. to 12:50 p.m. I kept scrolling. Every Tuesday and Thursday, the days I had after-school baseball practice and didn't get home until 4 p.m., Trevor was there. How had I not known? Because I trusted them, both of them. I went further back, May, April, March. The visits went all the way back to January. January 15th. That was the first one I could find. Before Lauren was pregnant. Before we even knew. My best friend had been coming to my house, alone with my wife, for months, and I'd been completely clueless. I sat in my car in the school parking lot, scrolling through footage, and I felt like I was going to throw up. The baseball kids had left an hour ago. The sun was setting, and I was watching my life unravel on a 3-inch screen. But here's the thing. I still didn't have proof. Suspicious visits aren't the same as proof. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe they really were just friends. And then I found July the 2nd. The footage showed Trevor and Lauren on the couch. The camera angle caught most of the living room. They were sitting close. Too close. Trevor's hand was on Lauren's knee. She was laughing at something he said, leaning into him. And then he kissed her. She kissed him back. They stood up, still kissing, and walked out of frame. Toward the hallway, toward our bedroom. 43 minutes later, Trevor came back into the living room, adjusting his shirt. Lauren followed, wearing different clothes. They kissed again at the front door. He left. I watched it 3 times. Then I turned off my phone and sat in the dark parking lot and cried. Not just because my wife was cheating on me, but because the baby I'd been so excited about, the one I'd been reading books for, buying things for, dreaming about, might not even be mine. The math was simple. Lauren got pregnant sometime in late February or early March. The affair started in January. We'd been having less sex around that time. I thought it was stress from her job, but maybe it was because she was getting it somewhere else. What if the baby wasn't mine? The question sat in my chest like a stone. I couldn't breathe around it. I sat in that parking lot until almost 10 p.m. Finally, I drove home. Lauren was already asleep. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching her breathe. And I felt nothing. No love, no anger, just nothing. I slept on the couch that night. Told her I didn't want to wake her. The next day, I called in sick to school. First sick day I'd taken in 4 years. I stayed home and went through every single piece of Ring footage, from January to July. I made a spreadsheet. Dates, times, duration of visits. 47 times. 47 times Trevor had come over while I was gone. And based on the few clips where the camera caught them together, touching, kissing, leaving the room, I knew exactly what they were doing. My wife was 4 months pregnant, and I had no idea if the baby was mine. Here's what nobody tells you about betrayal. It's not the big moment that breaks you. It's the small ones. It's realizing that every time she said, "I love you" for the past 6 months, she'd been lying. It's remembering how Trevor texted me congratulations when we announced the pregnancy. It's looking at the nursery you've been setting up and wondering if you're building it for another man's child. I couldn't confront them yet. Not until I knew for sure. Because if I accused them and I was wrong, if the baby was mine, then I'd be the bad guy, the paranoid, jealous husband who ruined everything over nothing. So I made a decision. I would wait. I'd act normal. I'd play the excited dad-to-be, the trusting husband, the supportive friend. And when the baby was born in September, I'd do a DNA test. If the baby was mine, I'd figure out what to do about the affair. If the baby wasn't mine, I'd burn their lives to the ground. For the next 2 months, I lived a lie. I smiled when Trevor texted, asking how Lauren was feeling. I thanked him when he brought over food. I went to doctor appointments and held Lauren's hand during ultrasounds. I bought a crib and put it together while she watched from the nursery doorway, talking about paint colors. At night, I reviewed the footage, watched them together, memorized every timestamp, every moment of betrayal. Lauren never suspected a thing. She probably thought I was just stressed about becoming a father. When I pulled away from her physically, I couldn't touch her, couldn't look at her without feeling sick. She assumed it was nerves about the baby. Trevor came over less in August. Lauren was too pregnant to keep up appearances, maybe. Or maybe they knew they needed to be more careful as her due date approached. I didn't care anymore. I had everything I needed. September 12th. Lauren's water broke at 3 a.m. I drove her to the hospital, held her hand through contractions, breathed with her like we'd practiced in birthing class. The whole drive there, I kept thinking, this might not even be my kid. But when I heard the baby cry, for the first time, when the nurse placed her in my arms and she opened her tiny eyes and looked at me, I felt something I didn't expect. Love. Immediate. Overwhelming. Terrifying love. They named her Madeline. Maddie. 7 pounds 4 ounces. Perfectly healthy. She had Lauren's nose, dark hair, these little fingers that wrapped around mine. And I thought, please let her be mine. Please. Lauren's parents came. My mom came. And Trevor. Trevor showed up at the hospital with flowers and a stuffed elephant. He held Maddie and said, "Congratulations, man. You're a dad." I shook his hand, smiled for the pictures Lauren's mom took, and inside, I was screaming. We brought Maddie home on September 14th. Those first few days were a blur of diapers and midnight feedings and figuring out how to function on 2 hours of sleep. I did everything I was supposed to do. Changed her, fed her bottles when Lauren was too exhausted, sang to her at 3 a.m. when she wouldn't stop crying. I loved her. God help me. I loved her so much, and that made what I had to do so much harder. On September 15th, the DNA test kit I'd ordered online arrived. I waited until September 16th during a night feeding when Lauren was asleep. Maddie was fussy, wouldn't go back down after I changed her. I held her in the nursery, rocking her gently, and I did the cheek swab, just a soft brush on the inside of her mouth. She didn't even notice. I did my own swab, sealed both in the provided envelopes, took them to the post office the next morning before school, and paid for overnight shipping. Results promised in 72 hours. Those were the longest 72 hours of my life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep beyond the required naps between Maddie's feedings. At school, I taught on autopilot. One of my students asked if I was okay. I lied and said I was just adjusting to the new dad schedule. September 19th, 11:32 p.m. I was in the garage. I couldn't sleep again, so I'd come out here to work on something, anything to keep my hands busy. I'd bought Maddie her first Christmas ornament weeks earlier, one of those baby's first Christmas ones with a picture frame in it. It was still September, but I couldn't wait. I was going to wrap it, put it away, save it for December. The gift paper I'd chosen had tiny storks on it. Cute. Perfect for a baby gift. I was halfway through wrapping when my phone buzzed. Email from LabCorp. Subject: Your DNA test results are ready. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I had to try 3 times to enter my password correctly. The website loaded. I clicked the link. Relationship analysis complete. Probability of paternity, 0%. 0%. Not might not be. Not probably not. 0%. Christopher Hayes is excluded as the biological father. I read it again, and again, and again. The ornament slipped out of my hands and shattered on the concrete garage floor, glass and silver pieces scattered everywhere. I didn't move to clean it up. I just sat there on the cold floor, surrounded by shards, staring at my phone screen. The gift paper with its stupid little storks was still spread out on the workbench. I was wrapping gifts for a life that didn't exist. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been 20 minutes. Could have been 2 hours. At some point, I heard the side door from the house to the garage open. "Christopher?" Lauren's voice, groggy with sleep. "Are you okay? I heard something break." I turned off my phone screen, stood up, faced her. "Yeah," I said. My voice sounded hollow. "Just dropped something. I'm fine." She looked at me for a long moment, and I wondered if she could see it on my face. The knowledge, the devastation, the cold rage that was starting to build underneath the pain. But she just yawned. "Come to bed soon. Maddie will be up again in a few hours." She went back inside. I stayed in the garage until 4 a.m. By the time the sun came up, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to confront them privately. I wasn't going to give them a chance to explain or apologize or make excuses. I wasn't going to let them control the narrative or beg me to keep their secret. I was going to tell everyone, and I was going to do it in a way that no one, not Lauren, not Trevor, not their families, would ever forget. September 20th. I called in sick to school again. Lauren asked if I was getting sick. "I'd been acting weird," she said. I told her I thought I was coming down with something. She bought it. I sat in my car in the parking lot of a Starbucks and called a lawyer. Gregory Walsh, 55, came highly recommended by a guy I coached baseball with whose brother had gone through a messy divorce. "Mr. Hayes," he said on the phone, his voice calm and professional. "Tell me what's going on." I told him everything, the footage, the affair, the DNA test. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a pause. Then, "North Carolina is a fault state for divorce. Adultery matters. With the evidence you have, you'll get a very favorable settlement. No alimony. Definitely no child support since you're not the biological father." "That's not what I'm calling about," I said. "I mean, yes, I want to file for divorce, but I need to know, legally, what can I do with this information? Can I tell people? Can I show the videos?" Another pause. "The ring footage was recorded in your home, with both parties' knowledge that cameras were present. You're legally allowed to retain it. As for sharing it, you're within your rights to discuss your own life circumstances with family and friends. However, I'd caution against posting explicit content online or in ways that could be considered defamatory." "What if I showed it at a private event? Just a family? That would likely be legally permissible," Walsh said carefully. "But Mr. Hayes, I have to ask, why?" "Because they've been lying to everyone, her parents, my mom, our friends. They were going to let me raise this baby thinking she was mine, and no one would ever know the truth. I want everyone to know what they did." Walsh was quiet. Then, "I understand the impulse, but make sure you're prepared for the fallout. This will get very ugly very quickly." "Good," I said. "It should be ugly. They earned ugly." Over the next few weeks, I met with Walsh twice. We started divorce proceedings quietly, filing paperwork, documenting financials. But I told him not to serve Lauren yet. Not until I was ready. I spent October and November playing the role of my life. Devoted dad. I did midnight feedings, changed diapers, took hundreds of photos of Maddie that made my chest ache every time I looked at them because I loved this baby, even though she wasn't mine. Lauren never suspected. She probably thought I'd finally adjusted to fatherhood when I was distant with her, barely touched her, hardly spoke beyond logistical necessities. She chalked it up to exhaustion. Trevor kept texting me. "How's fatherhood treating you? Want to grab a beer sometime?" I responded just enough to seem normal. And at night, after Lauren went to sleep, I worked. I went through every second of Ring footage from January through August, downloaded all of it, backed it up in 3 different places: cloud storage, external hard drive, my lawyer's secure server. I created a timeline document, every visit, every timestamp, every piece of evidence that showed exactly how long this affair had been going on. I found screenshots of text message previews that had popped up on Lauren's phone when she left it on the counter. Nothing explicit enough to read fully, but enough to show the frequency of communication between her and Trevor. I found bank records. Lauren had bought new lingerie in February, expensive perfume in March. She'd never worn either for me. I organized it all into a presentation. Nothing explicit. I wasn't going to show them having sex, but enough to make it clear what was happening. The visits, the timestamps, the physical affection caught on camera, and the final slide, DNA test results. I showed it to Nathan Foster, my co-worker who teaches history. I'd confided in him back in October when I needed someone to talk to before I lost my mind completely. Nathan watched the whole 8-minute presentation in silence. When it ended, he just sat there for a minute. Then he said, "Jesus, Christopher, you've been living with this since September?" "I need to know if this is too much," I said. "Am I crazy?" He shook his head. "No, you're not crazy. But man, this is going to destroy her. Both of them, everyone. I know. Are you sure you want to do it this way? Once you show this, you can't take it back." I looked at the screen. Lauren and Trevor on our couch, her laughing at something he said, his hand on her knee. "I'm sure," I said. In December, Lauren started planning a baby shower. Her mother was helping. They wanted to do it in the spring after the worst of winter passed, but before it got too hot. April 14th, they decided. A Saturday, Lauren's parents' backyard. When Lauren told me the date, I felt something click into place. That was it. That was the day. "Sounds perfect," I told her. "Whatever you want, babe." She smiled at me, kissed my cheek, said I was being so supportive. I wanted to vomit. January and February crawled by. I celebrated Maddie's first Christmas. I took photos of her in a little red dress with white trim. My mom came over and cried happy tears. Lauren's parents brought presents. Trevor sent a gift card. He'd been visiting less, probably because they were being more careful. I played Santa for Maddie, wrapped presents, smiled for photos, and every night I refined my plan. In March, the baby shower invitations went out. Lauren's mom had done it all. Designed these cute cards with a photo of Maddie, sent them to friends and family. About 30 people RSVP'd. Yes. Trevor and Emma were on the list. Emma was his fiancée. They were supposed to get married in July. She had no idea. None. I felt bad about that for about 30 seconds. Then I remembered. She deserved to know too. Better to find out now than after the wedding. The week before the shower, I did a technical run-through. Lauren's parents had a TV in their backyard for outdoor movie nights. I'd volunteered to handle the photo slideshow for the party, pictures of Maddie from her first 7 months. What they didn't know was that I'd be plugging in my laptop and showing a very different kind of slideshow. I practiced 3 times. Timing, logistics, making sure the video would play smoothly. I had backups on 2 different thumb drives, plus cloud access. Nothing was going to go wrong. The night before the shower, I sat in Maddie's nursery. She was 7 months old now, starting to crawl, babbling these sounds that were almost words. She'd never know me as her father. In a few years, Lauren would probably tell her I was some guy who used to be around but left. Would Trevor step up, claim her, raise her? I didn't know, and I was surprised to realize I cared. Not about Trevor, screw him, but about Maddie. She didn't choose any of this. She was just a baby, but I couldn't keep living the lie. Not for her, not for anyone. I almost backed out. I swear I almost did. But then Lauren came in, saw me holding Maddie, and said, Thanks for being such a great dad, Christopher. I'm so lucky to have you." And that was it. That was the moment I knew I couldn't back down. Because great dads don't get lied to for 9 months straight. Great dads don't raise other men's children while being deceived. I wasn't being a great dad. I was being a fool. April 14th, the day of the shower. I woke up at 6 a.m., couldn't sleep anymore. Lauren was already up, getting Maddie ready, excited about the party. She kissed me goodbye when I left to help her parents set up. I drove to their house in silence. Lauren's dad, Robert, was in the backyard setting up tables. Her mom, Susan, was decorating. Balloons, banners, the whole thing. "Morning, Christopher," Susan called out. "Thanks for coming early to help." "Of course," I said, happy to help. I helped Robert move chairs, helped Susan hang decorations, set up the gift table, plugged my laptop into the outdoor TV, and told them I'd loaded a photo slideshow. "Oh, how sweet," Susan said. "Maddie's going to love watching this when she's older." If she watches it, I thought, she's going to have questions. Guests started arriving at 2 p.m. Friends from Lauren's work, my mom, Lauren's college friends. Trevor and Emma walked in together at 2:15. Emma was wearing a sundress, carrying a gift bag, smiling. Lauren was in her element, laughing, hugging people, showing off Maddie. She looked genuinely happy. Good, I thought. Let her enjoy it while it lasts. We played games, diaper raffle, guess the baby food flavor. People laughed, ate cake, cooed over Maddie. At 2:45, Susan clinked her glass. Before we cut the cake, Christopher wanted to say a few words. Everyone turned to look at me. Lauren was standing near the gift table, holding Maddie. She smiled at me. I stood up, took the microphone someone handed me. "Thank you all for being here," I started. My voice was steady, calm. "Lauren and I are so grateful for your support. Becoming parents has been an incredible journey." Nods, smiles. Lauren's eyes were shining. When Lauren told me she was pregnant, I continued. "I thought it was the happiest day of my life. I couldn't wait to meet our daughter, to be a father." More smiles. My mom had tears in her eyes. "But there's something everyone should know," I said. "Something I learned 7 months ago." The smiles started to fade. Lauren's face went pale. I clicked the remote in my hand. The TV screen behind me changed. The title slide appeared. "The Truth About Maddie." Lauren made a strangled sound. "Christopher, what are you?" The video started playing. First clip, Trevor walking into our house. Timestamp, January 15th, 11:30 a.m. Trevor leaving. Timestamp, 1:45 p.m. Someone gasped. I don't know who. Second clip, another date. Trevor arriving, leaving hours later. The timestamps kept rolling. January, February, March, April, May. Third clip, July 2nd. Trevor and Lauren on the couch, his hand on her knee. The kiss. Lauren's mother screamed, "Oh my God!" Lauren dropped into a chair, hands over her face. "Turn it off! Turn it off!" Trevor jumped up from his seat. "Chris, man, don't." Nathan stepped in front of him, blocked his path to the TV. The video kept playing. More clips, more dates, a timeline showing how the affair overlapped with the pregnancy. Emma was staring at Trevor, her face white. "Trevor?" "Emma, I can explain." "Explain what?" Her voice cracked. The final slide appeared on screen. In large text, LabCorp DNA. Test results. Probability of paternity, 0%. Christopher Hayes is excluded as the biological father. Trevor Barnes is the biological father. The backyard went silent. Then everyone started talking at once. Susan was crying. Robert was yelling. Lauren's college friend Madison said, "I knew something was off." I spoke into the microphone again, my voice cutting through the noise. "Maddie isn't my daughter. She's Trevor's. For 7 months I've known. I've watched both of them lie to all of you." Emma walked up to Trevor, Her hand moved so fast I barely saw it. The slap echoed across the backyard. "We're getting married in 3 months," she screamed. 3 months, Trevor! Emma, please, Don't! She was sobbing now. "Don't you dare!" Lauren tried to approach me. "Christopher, please let me explain." I stepped back, kept my distance. "Explain what, Lauren? How many times did he come over while I was at work?" 47. I counted. I have video evidence of 47 visits. She crumpled, just collapsed into a chair, sobbing into her hands. Maddie, still in her arms, started crying too. My mom came up to me, her face a mixture of horror and heartbreak. "Oh, honey." Robert was in Trevor's face now. "Get out of my house, get out. Mr. Mitchell, Now!" Trevor looked at me one last time. "Chris, I'm sorry, man, You came to the hospital," I said. My voice was quiet now, but it carried. "You held your daughter, you congratulated me, you shook my hand, and you let me think she was mine." He had no response to that, just stood there, looking at the ground. Emma's mother grabbed her daughter's arm. "Come on, sweetheart, we're leaving." They pushed past Trevor without looking at him. Other guests were gathering their things. Some were crying. Lauren's friend Madison approached her, but Lauren shook her head, sobbing too hard to speak. I set the microphone down on a table. "I'm not the bad guy here," I said to the remaining guests. "I just told the truth. They had 7 months to do it themselves. They chose not to." I picked up the bag I'd left in my car that morning, walked past Lauren without looking at her. To Susan and Robert, I said, "I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I couldn't keep living the lie." Susan was sitting now, head in her hands, shoulders shaking. I walked out, got in my car, drove to Nathan's house where I'd arranged to stay for a few days. In my rearview mirror, I could see the backyard, pink balloons still swaying in the breeze, the gift table piled high with unopened presents, people standing around in stunned clusters, and I thought, all those gifts for a life built on lies. I pulled over 2 blocks away and threw up in someone's bushes. What came next was worse than I expected, and I'd expected it to be bad. My phone exploded with texts and calls. Lauren's number, Trevor's number, numbers I didn't recognize. I turned it off. At Nathan's house, I sat on his couch and he handed me a beer without saying anything. Just sat next to me. "How do you feel?" he finally asked. "I don't know yet," I said. That was the truth. I felt numb, hollow, like I'd just set off a bomb and was waiting to see how much damage it would cause. The answer was, a lot. Lauren's mother called Nathan's phone 2 hours later. Somehow she'd gotten his number. Nathan put it on speaker. "Christopher." Susan's voice was ragged from crying. "Why didn't you just talk to us privately? Why like this?" "Because they would have kept lying," I said. "You would have tried to fix it, sweep it under the rug, and I'd still be raising Trevor's daughter, while everyone whispered about it behind my back." "Lauren is devastated. Susan's voice broke. "She can't stop crying." "Good," I said, then softer. "I'm sorry you're hurting, Susan. I really am. But I'm not sorry for telling the truth." She hung up. Over the next week, I learned what happened to everyone else. Emma called off the engagement immediately. She moved out of the apartment she shared with Trevor, went to stay with her parents. From what I heard through mutual friends, she was heartbroken but furious. She told everyone what happened. Trevor became a social pariah overnight. Emma's parents were threatening to sue him for the money he'd borrowed from them. Apparently, he'd lied about needing it for a business investment. In reality, he'd been using it to fund his lifestyle, trying to keep up appearances. Trevor moved back in with his parents, at 30 years old. His real estate business started falling apart because the industry runs on reputation and networking, and nobody wanted to work with him anymore. Clients dropped him. His partner at the brokerage dissolved their partnership. Lauren moved back in with her parents, too. She took a leave of absence from work, unpaid. Her boss was understanding, but the office gossip was apparently brutal. Some of her coworkers had been at the shower. And me? I moved back into our house. My house now. My name was on the mortgage, and my lawyer made it clear Lauren had no legal claim to it given the circumstances. My mom came over 3 days after the shower. She'd been crying. I could tell from her puffy eyes. "I need to tell you something," she said, "and I need you to not be angry." "What?" "I loved Maddie. I know she's not your daughter. I know what Lauren did was unforgivable, but I bonded with her. I thought she was my granddaughter, my only grandchild." Her voice broke. "I know that's not fair to you. I know, but I need you to understand. My heart doesn't care about DNA. It just knows I lost something." I hugged her while she cried. And I felt like the worst person alive because my revenge had hurt her too. The divorce papers were served to Lauren on April 20th. 6 days after the shower, my lawyer assured me it would be clean. No alimony, no child support since I wasn't the biological father. We'd split our savings, 50-50, I'd keep the house, she could keep her car. Done in 60 days if she didn't contest anything. She didn't. Trevor officially acknowledged paternity. He had to, since I'd shown everyone the DNA results. He filed for custody rights. Lauren's parents helped her fight it. It was messy and complicated, and I tried not to pay attention. But sometimes I'd see photos on social media. Maddie at her first birthday party. Maddie taking her first steps, and my chest would ache. Not because I missed Lauren, but because I'd loved that little girl for 7 days and then 7 months of pretending, and now she was just gone from my life. May the 2nd. I got a call from Susan, Lauren's mom. "Lauren's in the hospital," she said. Her voice was flat, exhausted. She tried to hurt herself. Pills. My stomach dropped. "Is she?" "She's alive. They pumped her stomach. She's in the psychiatric unit now." I drove to the hospital. I don't know why. Maybe because, despite everything, I didn't want her dead. She was in a bed in the psych ward, staring at the ceiling. She looked so small, so broken. "Lauren," I said quietly. She turned her head, looked at me, started crying. "I deserved what you did," she whispered. "I know I did, but I can't. I can't live like this, Christopher. Everyone hates me. I lost my job. I lost Maddie. Trevor's fighting for custody, and I don't even know if I want him to win. My friends won't talk to me. My sister won't look at me." Susan appeared in the doorway, saw me. Her face was a mixture of grief and anger. "Are you happy now?" she asked me. "Is this what you wanted?" I looked at Lauren in the hospital bed, at Susan's devastated face. "I wanted the truth out," I said quietly. "That's all. I didn't want this." "Well, you got both," Susan said bitterly. I left the hospital feeling sick, drove home and sat in my driveway for an hour. Had I gone too far? I told Nathan about it the next day at school. "She tried to kill herself," I said, "because of what I did." Nathan was quiet for a long time. Then, "No, because of what she did. You didn't make her cheat. You didn't make her lie. You just exposed it. But the way I did it was brutal. Yes, but Chris, they were never going to tell you. You would have raised that baby your whole life not knowing. They made their choices. You made yours." I wanted to believe him, but the image of Lauren in that hospital bed wouldn't leave my head. The moral conflict ate at me for weeks. Trevor was struggling too. I heard through the grapevine that he was seeing a therapist, was depressed, barely left his parents' house. Good, part of me thought. Let him suffer. But another part, a smaller, quieter part, Wondered if anyone deserved what I'd done to them. In June, my lawyer called. "Divorce is final. Papers are signed. You're officially done." I expected to feel relief. Victory, even. Instead, I just felt tired. The house was too quiet. Bailey the dog followed me from room to room like he knew something was wrong. I still had Maddie's nursery. I couldn't bring myself to take it apart yet. Some days I'd stand in the doorway and look at the crib, the changing table, the mobile hanging from the ceiling. Gifts I'd wrapped months ago still sitting in the closet. I was wrapping gifts for a life that didn't exist. That phrase kept echoing in my head. Nathan finally talked me into seeing a therapist in July, Dr. Patricia Morgan, 50s, direct, no nonsense. "Why are you here?" she asked in our first session. "Because everyone says I should be over it," I said. "But I'm not. Over what? All of it. The betrayal, the revenge, the aftermath. I thought I'd feel better once it was done. But I just feel empty." "That's normal," she said. "Revenge rarely brings the satisfaction we think it will." "So I did the wrong thing." "I didn't say that. You told the truth in a public way. That was your choice. But now you have to sit with the consequences of that choice, not just for them, but for you." Over the next few months, therapy helped. Slowly. We worked through the anger, which was valid, Dr. Morgan assured me. The betrayal was real. My feelings were justified. But we also worked through the guilt, the sense that maybe I'd gone too far. The image of Lauren in the hospital, Susan's grief, my mom's loss. "You can hold both truths," Dr. Morgan said. "You were wronged, and your response hurt people, including innocents. Both things are true." I started rebuilding my life in small ways. I went hiking, something I used to love before Lauren and I got married. Drove up to the Blue Ridge Mountains one weekend and walked trails for hours, just breathing clean air and not thinking about anything. I reconnected with old college friends, not Trevor's crowd, but guys I'd lost touch with over the years. Started playing in an adult recreational baseball league. August came, new school year. I threw myself into teaching. My students didn't know about my personal drama. I was just Mr. Hayes, the English teacher who made them read The Great Gatsby and write essays about the American dream. One student, Sarah, a sophomore going through her parents' messy divorce, stayed after class one day. "Mr. Hayes," she said quietly, "how do you stop being angry at people who hurt you?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "You let yourself feel the anger," I said finally, "because it's valid. But you don't let it become who you are. You feel it, you process it, and then you choose what to do next." She nodded, seemed to consider that. After she left, I realized I'd given her advice I needed to follow myself. In September, 1 year after getting the DNA results, Nathan and I grabbed beers after school. "1 year ago today, my life exploded," I said. "And you survived," Nathan replied. "That's not nothing." He was right. I had survived. The affair, the betrayal, the revenge, the aftermath, all of it. "You'll meet someone when you're ready," Nathan said, "but you're not ready yet, and that's okay." In October, Lauren reached out via email. First contact since the divorce. Subject: "Can we talk?" I debated for a week. Finally replied, "Okay." We met at a neutral coffee shop. Awkward as hell. She looked different, thinner, tired, but somehow more grounded. Less polished, more real. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said immediately. "I just wanted you to know. I regret everything, every lie, every moment I hurt you." I listened. She told me she and Trevor weren't together. He had supervised visitation with Maddie once a month. She was living with her parents, working a retail job, going to therapy. "What you did at the shower," she said quietly. "It was brutal, but I deserved it." "I don't know if anyone deserves that," I said. And I meant it. We talked for 30 minutes, not about reconciliation. That door was permanently closed. Just acknowledgement of what happened, of the damage. I hope you find happiness, Lauren said as we stood to leave. Real happiness, Christopher. I hope you do too, I said, for Maddie's sake. We left separately. I sat in my car for a few minutes after, feeling lighter. Not forgiven, not forgiving, just less burdened. I started dating again in small ways, nothing serious. A co-worker set me up with her friend Jessica, a librarian. We went to dinner. It was fine, not magical, but I didn't have a panic attack, so that was progress. Thanksgiving with my mom was better than expected. We laughed again, played board games. It felt almost normal. Christmas was harder. Memories of last year, Lauren pregnant, Trevor visiting, me wrapping gifts for a future that was already a lie. But I got through it. In late December, I found the box of baby items in the garage. Things I'd bought when I thought I was going to be a father. The wrapped gifts I'd never given. The broken ornament from the night I got the DNA results. I'd kept the pieces in a Ziploc bag for some reason. I stood there looking at it all, and I made a decision. I donated everything to a women's shelter, except one thing, a book. Oh, the Places You'll Go, by Dr. Seuss. I'd bought it the day after we found out about the pregnancy, thinking I'd read it to my kids someday. I opened the cover and wrote inside, "For the father I almost was and the man I'm becoming." Then I put it on my bookshelf, not as a wound, as a reminder that I survived. Here's the thing nobody tells you about revenge. It doesn't fix you. It doesn't make you whole. It just clears the air so you can start healing. The baby shower. That moment when I played the video and watched everything explode. It felt necessary then. It still feels necessary now, mostly. But if someone asked me if I'd do it differently, I honestly don't know. Part of me wishes I'd handled it privately. Saved Susan and Robert the public humiliation. Saved my mom the heartbreak. Saved Maddie from growing up with this story hanging over her head. But another part knows. That version of me would still be living in their lie. Lauren and Trevor would have kept the secret. I'd have raised Maddie thinking she was mine. And years from now, maybe the truth would have come out anyway. Only by then, I'd have wasted even more of my life on a fantasy. The truth costs something. It always does. But silence costs more. I'm not the same man I was 2 years ago. I'm not the guy who wrapped gifts in a garage while his life fell apart around him. I'm not the naive teacher who thought his wife and best friend would never betray him. I'm the one who survived, who told the truth, even when it was ugly. Who learned that you can't wrap up pain and pretend it's a gift. I still teach, still coach baseball. I'm dating Jessica more seriously now. She knows the whole story, and she didn't run away, which feels like a miracle. My mom and I have dinner every Sunday. Nathan and I still grab beers and talk about everything and nothing. I drive past Lauren's parents' house sometimes on my way to the grocery store. Once, I saw Maddie in the front yard. She was 3 years old, playing with chalk on the driveway. Lauren was watching her from the porch. I didn't stop, just drove past. But I hoped she was happy. The kid, I mean. She didn't ask for any of this. Trevor moved to Raleigh, last I heard, working for some corporate real estate firm. Still sees Maddie once a month. I don't know if he ever apologized to Emma. Probably not. Some people never really take responsibility. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. The shower, the reveal, all of it. I tell them what I told Dr. Morgan in therapy. I don't regret telling the truth. I regret that the truth had to hurt so many people, but that's on them, not me. Someone asked me recently what I'd say to my younger self, the guy who was so excited to be a dad, who trusted completely, who never saw it coming. I'd tell him, "You're not crazy for trusting people. That's not your failure. Their betrayal is their failure." I'd tell him, "The pain you're about to feel is going to nearly destroy you. But you're stronger than you think." And I'd tell him, "When you find out the truth, you're going to want revenge. You're going to want everyone to know what they did." And you know what? That's okay. Do what you need to do. Just be ready for what comes after. Because the revenge is the easy part. Living with it, that's the hard part. But you'll survive, and on the other side, you'll find something you didn't expect, yourself, not the person they made you into, not the fool who got played, but the person you actually are underneath all of it. And that person is worth knowing. I'm not whole yet. I'm not over it. Maybe I never will be completely, but I'm here. I'm building a life that's mine, a life based on truth, not lies, on real relationships, not betrayals disguised as love. I was wrapping gifts for a life that didn't exist. Now I'm unwrapping the life I actually have, and that's enough.